All right, good afternoon, everybody. We are going to get started here in a minute as people jump on. This call will be slightly different than some of our typical trainings that we do, as we are doing this one in more of a webinar type format, recording all of the information, and then we'll be sharing it out afterwards, and also having this available for others to view on our Nourish Colorado YouTube page as well. So excited to have you all here today. And I'm just going to wait probably like one more minute, see if we have anyone else jumping on before we dive into the meat of our topic today, all around farm to school and what does it actually mean? Okay, so we'll get to it so that we are ending on time as well. Hello, everybody. My name is Jessica Wright. I work at Nourish Colorado and am the Procurement and Culinary Programs Manager for our Healthy Food and Institution program area of focus. And then I also have my colleague and partner in crime. I'll let him introduce himself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Chef Fernando from Nourish, Colorado, and happy to be here to share some food demos later.
So today, and the way that these calls will work is that we are hosting monthly calls, and they're all around local procurement, farm to school, farm to ECE, and a little bit of a tie-in into farm to institution, because there's a lot of tips, tricks, tools, and resources that we can apply across the board to really any type of institutional food service when it comes to integrating in the farm side and sourcing and integrating in local products. So we will be hosting monthly calls, fun little topic every single month. And then within these monthly calls, which are only an hour long, we will also be including a culinary demo with a recipe that can be served in your institutional food service, or it's something that you can make at home if you're ambitious and also want to try something new because you are inspired by whatever culinary recipe we are showing today. So we're excited to have you all here today and talk about farm to school and what does it actually mean. So as I said, our topic today, what is farm to school? What does it actually mean? And how do I determine next steps, whether I am new to this process or have been doing it for decades? How do I actually determine what my next steps are? And then our culinary demo is all going to be about winter squash. And we're saying, don't be a nut and use those butternuts. And with the culinary demos, we are going to be trying to follow the Colorado growing season, trying to work within the seasons as to what is actually available, so that you can see that no matter what time of the year it is, we actually have a good variety of products that are grown, processed, and raised in our states that can work within your institutional food service program or even at home as well. So there's always options. And right now, February, winter squash is available and is delicious and is a great way to incorporate a local Colorado grown product into what you are eating already. So when it comes to farm to school, people tend to say farm to school, but you'll notice that I have an asterisk there because farm to school also includes early childcare. And so the school side tends to be those kindergartners all the way up to 12th grade. So you hear K-12, and then early childcare is the 0 to 6-year-olds. Some schools will have an early childcare program like a Head Start program or a PK program. Other times within different school districts, you're going to have a bunch of childcare centers as well that are out there too. So farm to school, all encompassing 0 to 12th grade is really what we're talking about. And again, as I've mentioned, a lot of the concepts for farm to school do apply to other institutional settings as well. And the way farm to school is defined is by 3 core areas. It has three like really solid elements that I think help to really kind of hone it in a little bit, because it is a very big topic and there is a lot of different ways that you can do farm to school. So we want to make sure we understand what is the core of farm to school. And one of those first elements with farm to school is procurement. And this is, what am I procuring? What am I buying and actually promoting? So I'm not just buying these products and keeping it a secret that I'm using fresh onions from the farm down the street. I'm spreading the good word out there, and I'm serving these items as well. And I think a key word to note is this buying of the local foods, because we've seen a handful of school districts around our state that have great relationships with local farmers, and they actually get donated produce that they can then use in their program. And we love that. We love those long-standing relationships where you do get those donated items. However, one big part of farm to school is this buying, and that you're actually paying for this product, because there's a lot of work that happens on the farm side and the ranching side to get that product to you. And we want to ensure that we are paying our farmers a fair price for basically their hard work as well. So if you're buying the product and you have a long-standing relationship, and this farmer comes up to you and says, hey, I have all of this extra product that's going to be tilled under, but I can donate it to you so it could go to good use, that's great. We just really want to make sure that you're not coming into this with an expectation to have product donated to you. We really want you to think long and hard about where you can effectively buy these products and do it in a way that is sustainable and not just a one-off, one-time buying opportunity. And when it comes to serving this product, it can happen whether it's in the cafeteria line with the kids coming through, or the kids receiving meals to go, which is happening right now quite often with COVID. It could be happening as a snack. We've seen a lot of schools do the fresh fruit and vegetable program, and they make a very conscious effort to find those items that are being available and offered for the fresh fruit and vegetable program, but that actually have that local designated to them. So they actually are sourcing out the local apples, the local carrots, and using that as part of their fresh fruit and vegetable program. And that's really what we love, is finding the ways to make this work. And then we also have schools that are doing it as a taste test. And whether or not this is a taste test happening in the cafeteria during meal service, or if it's happening in the classroom, or even at an after-school event like a PTA gathering, a back-to-school event, we're seeing taste testing of these products as well. So, core element number one, procurement. The next core element is the school garden. And this is, again, a lot of different ways that you could go with the school garden. But the key is that the students are engaging with hands-on learning through gardening. And we've seen some schools that don't really have the space outdoors, but they have teachers who want to do this. They see the value in teaching the kids what it takes to grow something from a seed all the way into something that you could eat. And they set up fresh herbs on their windowsill, or they actually get something like a tower garden that can be grown indoors and show these students how to grow items in maybe a different medium than the standard soil, sun, outdoor setting. Teach them like that hydroponic growing and what is actually possible indoors as well. We've even seen some schools that have full indoor hydroponic growing systems where they're growing lettuce and then they're selling it back into the school meal service department. These are incredible models. And again, they take time to get there, but just think about the skills that these kids are learning when they see this, and the technology that they're learning. And again, the value that they're getting from this. Like, there's a lot of really exciting things that are happening to where not only are they doing this in the classroom, they're then seeing all of their hard work end up in the meal program. And they're able to say, hey, I grew that lettuce that I'm eating. That is something really cool and such a fun and unique experience for our children that we really should be offering to them. For the schools that have the space, some of them have a plot of land out back. Some of them are very simple with just a few containers growing. Some of them have gardens basically built into part of the plot of land, and they have these beautiful raised beds. They have acres that we have seen some schools. Some schools are building an orchard, knowing that it's going to take 5 to 7 years before that orchard's even going to be producing fruit, but they're planning this out. And we've seen quite a wide mix of school gardens. So it is possible to do something outdoors. And this is happening around the state in Colorado, and recognizing the fact that in our state, our growing season is limited. However, we have seen this happening with outdoor gardens. One way that many schools have worked around the growing season is by looking to build greenhouses or the geodesic domes. We've also recently learned about this thing called the Acre in a Box, which is basically a large shipping container that has been retrofitted to be an indoor growing container where you can effectively produce an acre's worth of produce all within the shipping container. And so just think about the possibilities that can happen from that, where if you are a school district in a high mountain community and you have a very short growing season and you can't really do a school garden, maybe you could look at getting one of these and putting in for grants to secure this so that you can have that fresh produce year round and available while also providing those educational opportunities. And then the final core element is going to be that nutrition education. And this is where the students are participating in this. And we really like to break this out into 4 categories. We have the agricultural education, which does include some work around food systems. Why do we till our crops? Why do we not till our crops? Why do we rotate our crops? Like, what is happening here to actually get the crops that we want, and teaching these kids about this and the value that agriculture provides to us to ensure that we are getting food to be able to live our lives. It also includes food education. So the culinary side, something that's near and dear to Chef Fernando, is what are the kids learning when it comes to food? Can they learn how to make their own granola bars? Can they learn how to make their own homemade salad dressings, whether they're doing this at home or taking it to the next level and developing recipes that can then go back into the school meal program? All really cool and exciting things that we have seen happen. And again, this just keeps reinforcing this model that we're trying to work towards, with really an ultimate goal. And this is like the goal that Nourish Colorado has. And I think it's important for us to state this, is that when it comes to farm to school, we really prefer to see all 3 of these core elements being intertwined. We've seen school districts around the state that might only do the procurement side, and all they're doing is buying local products and it's going into their meal program. That is fantastic. However, could you get a school garden? Can you potentially get some of those items growing in the garden back into your school meal program? What about the education side? Can you work with your family and consumer science teachers, your Future Farmers of America groups, your Future Business Leaders of America groups, and have them, the students, basically lead a farm to school program with the goal of ensuring that it's fully integrated into everything that you're doing? And one thing that we have seen from our work is, in most cases, within a school district, there tends to be a handful of schools that are really strong. And they're basically designed and built around this comprehensive model where the nutrition education, the garden education, and the school meal program are all working together in a coordinated effort to basically make this part of who they are and what they do. However, I have not yet seen in Colorado, and feel free to call me out if this is not true, but I have yet to see a school district doing this. From the top level, the entire district is basically owning farm to school, and they are incorporating it in to every single school within that district. So that's really what we're working towards. So if you are one of those school districts that has a handful of schools that have the gardens and the ag education in there, and you're using the local product, but you still have a handful of schools that aren't doing it, maybe that's your next step. So just things to kind of think about. If you're brand new, we'll go into how you can start taking steps to make a farm to school program happen. And really, now that you know like this ultimate goal that we're working towards, we really want to show you and give you some tips for how to get there. And so to break it down, we really think it's important that you know the core elements of farm to school, procurement, school gardens, nutrition education. We also think it's very important that you know your role. What is your role in this big picture? How do you fit in? And what value do you bring to this journey that we're all going on together? And then it's also important to know your region and your state. One, what are your resources? Who are your resources within your region and statewide who can help you on this journey? And also, what's grown, raised, and processed in your state, in your region? If you don't even know like what Colorado grows, that might be a place that you need to start identifying what works. And then you can start taking those next steps to figuring out how it works within your menu and what you do. So speaking of what's grown and raised, I think it's time for our first culinary demo here. We're going to have Chef Fernando share the first of the butternut squash videos that we have made. And, you know, we're still learning on our video side, but we think they should work quite well for you all and are excited to share them. So take it away, Chef Fernando. We need sound. I think it's because you're muted though.
All right, I just unmuted myself, so let me reshare. Thumbs up. A vegetable of the month, and today.
Perfect.
Hello everyone, welcome. This is going to be your culinary session where I'm going to be talking about a vegetable of the month, and today we're going to be focusing on butternut squash. Why? Because they're available throughout the winter here in Colorado, so you can find this in the winter months, which means you can make some local items with some Colorado food and produce. Winter squashes, they're great. Some history about butternut squash. They originated in Central America, South and Central America. And do you know why they call them butternut squash? Well, when cooked, they are smooth like butter and they have a nutty flavor. They are awesome. Some nutritional facts about them. I love them because they are packed full of nutrients like vitamin A and vitamin C. Vitamin C, you know, we want them to improve our immune system. You can get vitamin C from these guys, not just oranges. They're full of potassium and magnesium. Overall, they really nurture us in the winter. So today, I'm gonna be showing you how to make 3 recipes with butternut squash. Are you ready? Let's get cooking. All right, so the first thing we need to do is cut, process, prep our butternut squashes. And I'm not gonna lie, they're really dense and hard, but you're gonna be okay because we're gonna focus on our safety. I wanna mention for our school friends, you have the option. If you have the labor, the skill, and the staff to prep them, go ahead and buy them like this. They're cheaper. Or I know depending on your specifications and your purveyor, you can buy them already cut. So talk to your rep and see what they offer. They can sell you chunks like this, or maybe really nice pretty dices like that. But today I'm gonna show you how to get them like this. So you have your butternut squash, and this bottom part is where the seeds are. And we're gonna cut them and separate them. So we're gonna just go ahead and slice it right through, like so. Stand it up. I'm gonna move this to the side right real quick. And we're just gonna cut it right in half, right through the middle. You open it and you have your seeds. Get a little container for your trash, and with a spoon, we're gonna scoop the seeds out. It takes no time, but a couple seconds real quick. Okay, and I'm just gonna lay it flat on a sheet pan that already has some parchment paper. Remember, the parchment paper is gonna help us with the cleanup later, and we really need to take advantage of that. Okay, so I got the seeds out. You have an option. You can brush it with a little oil and pop it in the oven, or not. I'm not doing it, so just like so. And from here, once the flesh is cooked, I can scoop it out and, you know, make a soup, a puree. I'm gonna set my timer, click, 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 for about an hour, hour and a half, and I'm gonna come back and it's gonna be ready, okay? Now, to make those chunks and dices, we're gonna process the rest of this. So I'm gonna take this other end, I'm gonna remove it, and you notice it rolls all over the place. we need to make it safe. So I'm gonna cut it right in half one more time, and now I can stand these guys up. What I'm gonna be doing is just go ahead and slice the skin right down. Turn it around. Make sure that you have a nice grip with your claw. If you've been to our knife skills classes, you know what we're talking about. You need to make sure and make an angry claw, like an angry chef. Use your bench scraper to take all of your skin off. Thank you so much. Once you have this, now you notice it stands up, it's safe. We're gonna cut sides, just straight down, and we're going for a large dice, okay? So, I'm getting 3 out of this, and they're uniform, similar size. I'm gonna take one of them, and I'm just gonna cut long strips. I have my strips. I'm gonna turn them again, just a quarter turn, and keep slicing, and look what I have. I have my large dice. Beautiful. I'm gonna show you what to do with them here in a minute. I'm gonna put them on the side real quick. And the other thing is just to chunk it up, because we're gonna puree it. So I don't care if they look pretty or not. I'm just gonna make uniform chunks. So I'm just gonna cut it in half and cut it in half again. And here it is. This is how you process your butternut squash. And from here, we're ready to keep cooking.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chef Fernando, for sharing that nice little culinary break. And now it is time for us to roll into determining some steps. So just as you can tell that it takes many steps to take raw ingredients and turn them into a final product, there are a lot of steps on this farm to school journey. And you all might actually get a little bit tired of me and all the culinary references that I'm going to use as examples on this farm to school journey, because I cannot help myself. So one thing, again, that you need to know is, what is your role? So how do you fit into this puzzle? So let's see all the different roles that we have identified. And as we go through these, if you happen to feel like you do not fit into one of these boxes, please let us know, and we will make sure to include you, because again, everybody has a role and everybody can support this journey. And we need to make sure that if you're not identified in here, we need to get you in the mix, because how else do we keep rolling forward? So our first group that we have is our farmers and our ranchers. I feel like this is pretty self-explanatory. They're the ones who are growing the food, raising the food, and harvesting it and sending it our way. The next group that we have are our distributors. So these are basically like our food hubs, maybe those co-ops that we have out there. Could also be our vendors or our broadliners. You might hear things like Cisco, Shamrock. Those are the large distributors. Those tend to be called the broadliners. We also have our produce distributors like Colopack, Fresh Pack, Fresh Point. Anyone who basically takes the product from the farm and the ranch side, holds it and stores it, and then they send it to the next person, which is usually the food service departments. And on this side, when it comes to the food service departments, we have basically the big decision makers here. These are our food service directors. These are the purchasers, the menu planners. These are the ones who are saying, yes, I'm going to buy butternut squash that is locally grown from Jay Wright's farm down the street, and we're going to include it in our menu, and we're doing it 5 times a year because we love butternut squash and we are going to use this. These are our food service departments. Within the food service departments, we also have our kitchen teams. So these are the people who are working in the school kitchen, at the early child care site. Basically, they're the ones who then have to take that butternut squash, whether you bought it whole or if you bought it already processed, they're the ones who are taking it and then turning it into that final product. And they can serve that product with a smile, or they can serve that product with a, this is really hard and I never want to do butternut squash again type of mindset. So you have a really important role here as a kitchen member to ensure that you are also really promoting all the good that you're doing, especially when it comes to serving local products. The next group that we have are our food manufacturers. And sometimes these can be almost an intermediary between the farms and the ranchers and the distributors. So we'll see a lot of different companies, like we have a company called Colorado Mills that makes sunflower oil. You can buy directly from them, but generally you're going to find their products available through a distributor. We've also have some local companies that might make their own green chili sauces or refried beans, or they're doing baked goods. Again, depending on the size of that manufacturer, you might have the option to buy directly from them, or you have to seek them out through your distributors. But again, they are great companies to use, and it's also a great way to really support some local businesses that are Colorado owned and operated. Next, we're going to have our state agencies. So these are the ones who are handling the regulatory environment, and they are an incredible resource for you. They basically work from the federal level down, and then they, at the state agency side, are the ones who are going to be checking in, making sure if you're a school district that you're following the regulations. If you're an early child care center, those are managed by the Department of Health and Environment. If you're on the ag side, you interact with the Colorado Department of Ag. So these state agencies are very important because, again, they are some big decision makers as well, and they can help and support you along this process. We also included Department of Human Services, because on the school side, they do a lot of the big commodity purchasing for the brown box items that you might get, like your raw proteins, your cheeses, and even the Department of Defense Fresh Produce Program. And in Colorado, ours actually went above and beyond, and they have now notated on the invoices when the products are Colorado grown. And that's a really cool way to take money that you already have available to you as a school food service department and use that to support local Colorado products very simply. And we wanted to include OEDIT, the Office of Economic Development and International Trade, because they're big on workforce development. And one thing that we are always hearing is that we don't have the staff that has the skills to actually take something like a whole butternut squash and process it down. So when we can work with a state agency like OEDIT, we have an opportunity to build up the workforce development side and help build the skills so that you have the team that you need within your region, and really effectively building up that resiliency within your region and within your community. We love our state agencies. And speaking of state agencies and who we love, we also love the health and safety ones. So Colorado Department of Health and Environment, you know, they have the early child care side on one area, but they are also big on the health inspection side. So they handle retail food operations. Health inspectors galore. If you have any type of retail food service, you know CDPHE. And the thing with CDPHE is on the farm side, when you harvest, you have one cut. CDPHE does not get involved. The second you do more than one cut, the second you take that lettuce and then you chop it, or you take that butternut squash and you start peeling it down, you are effectively becoming a retail food establishment, and CDPHE is getting involved. As long as you're only that first cut, that harvest cut, you're dealing with USDA, you're looking at potentially the produce safety rule coming into play. We also have local group GAP and GIP, good agricultural practices, good handling practices, the certifiers, because we have seen that for some of the large institutions, they require GAP and GIP certification. It is not a requirement at the school district side that farmers must be GAP or GIP certified. However, as a food service director, you can make that decision and you can put that in as a policy. But when it comes to health and safety, we always like to say safety first, even if it takes more time, and that relates across the board. Another group that we have here is our county extension specialists and our ag associations. So we have the Beef Council, Rocky Mountain Farmers Union. I like to see our county extension specialist as basically the gurus on the ground. I even reach out to my own when it comes to just my own gardening practices and trying to learn from them. So these are incredible people that you have within your community, most of them have an ag background, and they are great resources to one, maybe see what could actually grow if you want to do a garden, or who are even your farmers and ranchers in your region. We love these people because, again, I can't keep all this knowledge in my head, so I need to use my resources and reach out to the experts. Another group is our educators and our students. And these people are so incredibly important because our students are our customers. They are the ones consuming the meals. However, there's also a lot of opportunity here to harness basically the power of our students and our educators to support the food and nutrition services departments. So whether they're family and consumer sciences, Future Farmers of America, the FBLA, post-secondary at the college level even, lots of really cool ways to incorporate in the educators and the students to build this farm to school program. And then finally, for those of you who might be like, I don't know where I fit in, you might fit in here as a food access or a food systems partner. So local nonprofits, community groups, Cooking Matters, Hunger Free Colorado, there's a lot that are out there that, again, could potentially be there to help support you so that you are not doing this alone. So we're going to turn it back over to Chef Fernando, and I'd love for you all to think on, during this next culinary video, where you fit in.
I was muted, so let me unmute myself.
We are ready to start making our cinnamon roasted butternut squash. Not a lot of ingredients, some brown sugar, some cinnamon, we're gonna add a little bit of oil because when we add a little bit of oil and pop it in the oven, it's gonna help us with the roasting, and you'll see that caramelization that we talked about. It's gonna be great. And salt, can't forget about salt, right? 1/4 teaspoon. Use the best tools that you always have with you, which are your hands. So I'm just tossing. You want them on a sheet pan that you line with parchment paper. We're gonna spread them out. Make sure that you don't crowd it, otherwise they're not gonna roast evenly. Okay, just like so. And we're gonna pop this into the oven, and we're gonna set our timer for about 30 to 35 minutes, and we'll come back and check on them. So ready? And it's been about 20 minutes, and look how beautiful and roasted. The color is so cool. So let's test it. Getting a little resistance, but they're getting there. You see some of them are getting a little soft, but they need a little more time. So we have our finished cinnamon roasted butternut squash, and it didn't take very long to get roasted like this. The amount of brown sugar and cinnamon and that little bit of salt and oil, it did wonders to this. I tasted it. It is delicious. I get a nice strong flavor of butternut squash. So we're gonna present it. I'm gonna just put it in a plate right here so that you can see what it really looks like as a finished product. That cinnamon is enough to give it a nice color, and I can't wait for you to try it because it is so delicious. For the final and third recipe of today, we're gonna be making some butternut croutons, butternut squash croutons. And with our large dices, we're gonna serve them cold. You can serve them hot, but we're gonna serve them on a salad. And imagine what a cool concept to serve something different than a carrot or, baby carrots, carrot sticks. The color, the size, the shape, it's gonna be great. So we're gonna glaze them with a little soy sauce. We need some oil, a little bit of water, and this is optional, but I always like to add it because a little heat, this is crushed red pepper flakes. It's gonna give you a little heat, and it just makes things so good. We're gonna stir this real quick. Make sure we have a nice sauce. This is gonna be our glaze, and we're just gonna add it to our butternut squash. And I'm gonna use again my hand, and just to show you, coat them, and this is a really wet glaze right now, but the heat, when it reduces, when the water evaporates, it's gonna be almost like syrup-like consistency, okay? So I got my sheet pan with parchment paper, and I'm just gonna put it right in here. Spread it out evenly to make sure when we put it in the oven, it roasts. And we are ready to go into the oven. All right, for the other recipe, here it is. We have our roasted butternut croutons with a little soy glaze. And all of the liquid, like I told you, it evaporated. And what I really like about this is that within one dice, which one, maybe this one, you have like different colors. And look at this. This, for eye appeal, it is so cool looking. All right, so give it a whirl. We cool them down to in the refrigerator to 41 or below. Remember, you can serve them hot or you can serve them cold in a salad. That's what we call them croutons, and that's what we're gonna be doing. So I'm just gonna transfer them and put them right onto some arugula that I have right here. So yeah, there you have it. Soy glazed, roasted butternut squash croutons.
Awesome. I was the happy recipient of both of that cinnamon roasted squash and those soy glazed croutons. And they're delicious. And it actually reminded me of how much I like them because it had been a handful of years since I'd even thought about those. So that was great to be reminded of a delicious recipe and change things up just a little bit because I'm guilty of getting into my own routine. So when it comes to determining your next steps and where you are on this journey, the thing is whether they're small steps or whether or not they're big steps, either way, we want you to take a step. And now that you really know your role and how you fit in, ask questions. If you are a food access or a food systems partner, who's your local school district? Who's your food service director? What are they doing when it comes to local? If you're a farmer, who's your food service director? Who's your school district? If you're a food service director, who are your local farms in your area? Who are your partners who can help you with this? Start asking questions. And really a big part with asking the questions is, do we have an action plan? If we don't have an action plan, how can I help? And one thing you will find as you start asking these questions is you're going to come across people will share their roadblocks and their challenges. And this is where you as a partner, wherever your role is in this, you can really start working to support. And maybe you need to go and convince people. Maybe the food service director says, I would love to do local products. However, the teachers aren't on board because we want to do taste testing and they're not quite open to it yet. So then that tells me I need to go start talking to the teachers and start building up the value of farm to school. Part of this is developing and or deepening these relationships. You really need to get to know each other and really come to understand like everything that they are already doing, because you would be surprised all of the good that's already happening in your schools and your childcare centers. But until you have that relationship, you might not even be aware of it. So do take the time to develop those relationships and deepen them. If you already have relationships with local farmers and you're buying their products every single year, maybe you can deepen it by working with the farmer in their planning season and say, hey, like I want to buy more products from you. Can you grow more products for me? Can you maybe grow something cool and new like a watermelon radish because my kids have never seen this and I'm committed to buying it from you? How can you really work to deepen those relationships? Another big area of focus is basically knowing your skills. What is your skill? What do you have to offer? And where is the opportunity for you to enhance those skills? So whether or not I'm a cook, a food service director, an extension specialist, we all have something to offer. We all have skills that we bring to the table. And it's important to identify how those skills fit in And then also where you might have the opportunity to learn some new skills. I am continuously learning about the farm side and farm food safety side. I know I will never be a farm food safety expert. However, I recognize that this is something I should be aware of and at least know the core basics of farm food safety so that I feel comfortable and confident when I speak about it. But again, know your limits as well, because that is something that we all have to be aware of. And the other one is knowing your resources. So Chef Fernando says this all the time. I've completely co-opted it. I probably have stolen it from him now at this point, but he likes to say that you can do anything, but you can't do everything. And on this journey, this does take a long time. So you need to know your resources, what's out there, who can help you to help you along this process, because it does take time. And as a little another fun culinary reference, I really think that when it comes to creating a sustainable farm to school program, it's really like making a stew. And you can make a stew by throwing a bunch of ingredients in a pot, letting it cook for a bit, and then calling it good. And it's probably going to taste good, but it might not be the most delicious stew that you have ever eaten. Now, if you take your time, choose specific ingredients, build those flavors, allow them time to simmer and meld, you are going to end up with a stew that tastes light years beyond that first one that you made. And I say farm to school like this. There's a lot of different factors at play. We're working within a challenging growing season. The school timeline can be tough to navigate. The regulatory environment is also there, always hanging over our shoulders. There's a lot. You can do farm to school pretty quickly. However, it's going to be more like that first stew. To get to that second stew with those well-developed flavors, you need a clear vision. You need to check in on that vision along the way, and you need a team, because these amazing, sustainable farm to school programs that we've seen, there might be one person leading the charge, but you know that they have a wide network of resources supporting them. And when it comes to resources, the thing is there are a ton of resources out there. It almost leads you to analysis paralysis, where there's just too much out there, you don't even know where to begin. So again, we want you to really focus on knowing the core elements of farm to school, knowing your role and how you fit in and what you can contribute, and then knowing your region and your state. However, there's one rubric out there that we really love. And I'll do a quick little screen share here in a second and show you it. But one thing that I like about this by Vermont Feed is that they have sections. So they're thinking about the cafeteria, the classroom, the community, but they're also thinking about the integration and the staying power part. And this part screams to me that stew, that long, slowly simmered stew right here. Because if you leave and you're the only person doing farm to school in your district, who's going to take it on? Who else is going to keep it going? And we don't want that. We, love and appreciate like the little one-off, like farm to school kind of day, and you're doing it once a year. However, to get to that ultimate goal, you need to really be thinking about that integration and how do you make this last? Even if you're not around anymore and everybody has turned over, how do you actually truly build it in to the culture and the core part of your school district? And I also really like how Vermont Feed has presented their indicators so that you can see where you are on the spectrum of farm to school, whether or not you're emerging, and these are just ideas that people are having. You're actually developing these ideas, testing a few, you're deepening them, you're going a little bit further, always pushing that needle, or are you thriving? And I like how they break these out. And just so you can see this rubric, and we will share it out as well. Again, Vermont Feed, very handy. The thing is, and this is something that's quite common in the school industry, is R&D. We always have research and development. It's kind of the classic term, but we have basically co-opted it to mean rip off and duplicate, because there's no reason to recreate the wheel if some of this work has already been done for you. So don't feel like you have to start anew and from a completely blank slate. Some of this work has already been done, and there's fantastic resources out there, this one being one of them. So I wanted to call out a few things here because I love this. So like in their cafeteria section, under emerging keywords, staff is interested. There are possibilities you've begun to identify. This, I think, is where it's important to say that even if you haven't done anything with farm to school, if you are thinking about it, you're emerging. These are ideas that are worth talking about. Once you start developing things, you're actually, staff is regularly attending it. Deepening, they're playing an active role in this. Thriving is like school nutrition staff, they're working with the faculty, the administration, and the community members. So think about this and how they have really categorized these different indicators, because in every section, it's a fairly kind of common theme that they have here, with emerging being interested, you're identifying things, there's interest in here. Developing, like some faculties doing it, versus deepening, most faculty is doing it, versus thriving. School has a coordinated approach to providing students with hands-on learning experiences. Each grade provides opportunities for scaffolded experiences that build from grade to grade. This is, again, these resources are awesome, and it's a great way for you to say, hey, this is my role. I want to review something like this and see how I fit in. Because again, you cannot do this alone. So I'm going to have you think on that while we watch our final culinary video as he's making the first soup of the day. And we will return here in a few.
So we're ready to make our first recipe, and it's going to be a roasted butternut squash soup, and it's full of vegetables. I got some ginger, some celery, onions, garlic, and we need to get ready for our recipe. So ginger, when you have to process and prep a small amount, you can either use a peeler, a knife, but I'm going to show you when it's a small amount, the spoon is actually the most efficient because you're not really removing a lot of flesh. And just with the spoon, run it, and look how easily the skin comes off. Just take it off, remove it, and it really doesn't take that long. This way, you're not wasting a lot by removing way too much with the knife or the peeler. And once that's done, this soup is gonna be pureed, which means I'm not too concerned with the size of my vegetables. We're gonna rough chop it because everything is gonna be pureed. So that's okay. I have my ginger right there, my onion. Again, I just wanna make sure that I have chunks so that it cooks evenly and nicely. And when it comes time to puree it, it will be all into a delicious soup. So just rough chop it maybe 2 or 3 times. That's all you really need to do. Garlic, we've talked in schools, always try to buy peeled garlic because you don't want to spend time peeling it. It is a waste of time. So you got your whole garlic right there. Pepper, this is optional. I have a serrano. This is just for an extra added heat. If you're into it, if you like it, if your customers, your kids like it, go ahead and add it in. If not, you can leave it out. If you want to take the seeds out, you can. Celery, again, just rough chop it. I'm just gonna run my knife and easy. I'm just gonna put them to the side. And the main player, which is our butternut squash. Look at this bright orange color. For my friends in school, this meets your requirement for the bright, for the red and orange vegetable for the week, okay? So I got all of my vegetables. I have my mise en place and a little bit of oil, and I'm ready to start cooking this. So let's get to it. All right, before we get started, we need to talk about the equipment and the pots we're gonna need to make our soup. This right here is called a rondeau. This is a regular pot, and what you need is something wide and open. If you have something like this, it will work. An army pan, a roasting pan that is a little bit taller. You want something wide Why? Because if you cook it here, if you throw it in this pot, for the amount that you have, you're not going to be able to get the caramelization that we want, and I'll talk about it in a minute. If you have a big tilt skillet, a round dough, or one of those big roasting pans, they're wide, and you're going to be able to get that caramelization. Or even if you don't have any of these pots or a tilted skillet, you can just put everything in a sheet pan or a hotel pan, a little bit of oil, and pop it in the oven. That way, you are going to be able to get that caramelization. And what is caramelization? Let's talk about it real quick. A lot of the vegetables have natural sugars, and when we cook them, we grill it, we sear them, the heat, it's going to cook those sugars and intensify their flavor. And from a regular flavoring vegetable, it's going to bring it to the next level, and it's going to turn a really simple soup into a really complex, delicious item. All right, so we're going to show you and get started real quick. All we need to do is add our oil. I already have it heating up, and I want to make sure that I don't crowd it. Okay, I want to make sure that every single piece is touching the pot. So I'm just going to start with maybe half of it. I really want to make sure that I can get that caramelization in as much of the butternut as I can. And the heat and the oil will do its thing. All right, so we're about halfway done, and you can see how the butternut, it's starting to get that color, that caramelization. That's what we want. So keep an eye on your pot, and you do need to stir it and make sure that you flip it so that you can try to get caramelization on all sides if possible. So we'll just give it a few more minutes, and look at this beautiful browning. This is what you want. Notice, we're talking about browning, not burning, so keep an eye on it. We'll be back in a few moments. We are ready to go into the next stage, which is adding the rest of the ingredients. But look, we have a nice caramelization. This is what we want. All of this browning, this is telling me that we are ready for the next step, which is adding all of the chopped vegetables. So just go ahead and put them all right into the same pot. We're gonna stir. And for this, I just wanna soften them up, get them cooked, and we'll add the water, put a lid on it, let it simmer, and we'll puree it. At this point, we are ready to add our water, and we're almost done. But I want to point something out. If you notice on the bottom, you're getting all of this food stuck to the bottom of the pot. This is great. This is called the fond, okay? And it's not burning. It's not scorching. We're going to use some of the liquid, and this is called deglazing. All of this is great flavor, and we want to use it. So with the water, we're going to add it in. And just keep an eye. There's a difference between burning and scorching the bottom of the pot versus releasing, deglazing the fond. And the water's gonna do that. We're just gonna make sure and cover, move it around. We're gonna lower the temperature, have it come to a simmer. And once all the vegetables are nice and softened, we are ready to puree it, and our soup will be almost ready. All right, so just checking our soup real quick. We're about halfway there. We're almost ready to puree. But look, by putting the lid on, all of that moisture stays in the pot. And you can see it's simmering. The vegetables are softening up. We're almost there. We're gonna let them soften up a little more, and we'll come back. Hi, everybody. We are ready to puree our soup. And you will notice I transfer the soup into a smaller pot because we're filming at home. We're not making a big amount. And I want to make sure that I'm able to puree it, and I had to switch it. The goal for you, if you are especially at school making this soup, you should puree right into the same pot that you are cooking. Again, we are at home, so things are a little different. So pretend that this is the same pot that I was cooking everything where I started. I'm going to be pureeing with my immersion blender. There's another blender, of course. If you have a standalone blender, you can use that. But if you have one of these, this is so much better because you're just going to go into the pot, you puree, you come out, and the cleanup is a lot easier. So let's go ahead and get to it. We're gonna have this little guy right here, and always make sure that you begin at the slow speed, and we're just gonna puree. All right, it's a little thick. From here, we can add some water to thin it out, or if you want, this soup is delicious as it is. I have some coconut milk that we're gonna add. And if you're a school authority, all I want you to do is, if you decide to add the coconut milk, make sure that you run your nutritionals so that you are making sure that you are compliant with the nutritionals, okay? Coconut milk is a calorie-rich ingredient. So make sure you do your math and put it through your nutritionals and ensure that we are good. So I'm gonna puree with that real quick. And that's it. You can puree a lot more, a lot longer to have a smoother soup, but it's pretty smooth. And if it has a little chunk, it's okay. That way I can really show people that I use real whole vegetables, okay? So what I wanna do right now is show you how to make a garnish for your soup, because we really wanna serve it in an attractive way. Remember, we eat with our eyes first. So we need to really think about our customers and how they're gonna see it the first time. We wanna make it as attractive as possible so that they fall in love with it. At school, you can use the dinner roll, you can use the bread that you already get, but make sure that you cut it in a way, make triangles, make different shapes, so that you're not just serving a slice of bread, all right? And we'll show you the presentation in a little bit. So I got my slices of bread. This is just a loaf of whole grain bread. And I'm gonna get a little bit of oil and just brush some oil onto the bread. And this is gonna help it with my roasting. And this is not a lot of oil, just a little brushing. And I have some Parmesan cheese. It's grated. You don't have Parmesan cheese, you're not able to get it, it's too expensive. What kind of cheese do you have? Do you have a little mozzarella? If you're able to get some cotija, or what do you have? Make sure that it goes well with it, and we're not talking a lot. 1.5 tablespoons for all of this. This is all that we're looking for. We're gonna pop this into the oven, and we're gonna brown it nicely, and you'll see it in a minute. So our soup is ready. We have a nice, beautiful soup, and it's time to serve it. Keep in mind, we eat with our eyes first, so we need to ensure that it looks as attractive as possible. So we're gonna be talking about a few options to do that, okay? We made our toast. We have our cheesy toast right here. You can serve one right on top of it, or if you wanna serve a couple right on the side, that looks really nice. We have some pumpkin seeds, if you're able to have them. We can garnish it with a little pumpkin seeds. Or we also have some parsley, just a little bit, just to give you an idea. When you serve your soup, whatever you want to do, ensure that you do something to it, because keep in mind, remember, we eat with our eyes first. And here you have it, butternut squash, 3 ways. We made our soup, our delicious soup with ginger and garlic and onions, all of those yummy things for our belly. We have our cinnamon roasted butternut squash. And for a salad, we have our soy glazed roasted butternut squash croutons. Butternut squash, 3 ways. And don't be a nut. Use those butternuts.
That was awesome. So thank you all so very much for joining us for our second call of the year. If you have any questions, we will be around to answer any of those follow-up questions. Please do join us for the next call that we're hosting in March, because one thing we have found is that for many people, they actually need some support from the policy to actually help and further their farm to school efforts. So that's what we're going to be talking about, is all about policy and how you can leverage state, local, and even federal policies to support your farm to school efforts. And then we're going to be doing beans, green chilies, and cornmeal galore, 3 items that are grown in Colorado We're not going to tell you what we're making because it's a surprise, although we suspect you might be able to think about it. So again, after this call, we will be sending out an email posting this to our YouTube channel. Somebody had asked about potentially just sharing out the video, so I'll talk to Chef Fernando about that, and maybe we just separate out the videos as well, and you can share those. And from that, that's all we have for this call. We look forward to seeing you again in March. And keep up the good work. So thank you all so very much and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Goodbye, goodbye.